Thank
Just
you.
today?
Thank you.
Or just for the next 2 hours? You want to make it really long?
It actually expires in 10 minutes, so you have to ask me again.
Do I get paid?
You mind if I share the window? Is that cool?
Yeah, but I wanted to do something on the board first.
Oh, okay. But then,
Yeah. We will not record both conversations. It's whatever's on the screen.
yeah, just whenever you're done with the
Yeah.
board,
It's fine. We can have a
just unpin it from here like that,
Understood, I know.
and that's
I
it.
got
And make sure we're recording. All right, we're recording. If I don't have your consent, just leave the room.
Oh, wow. That's fighting words.
Last time we recorded, I was trying to see how to do that cover, and I didn't know how to do it. So,
Are you recording or no?
yes, it's recorded.
You are already recording. You sure you hit the button? Guy.
Making me question myself now.
Today we're going to cover.
Yes, it's recording.
Well, I thought you were recording on your OBX on your laptop.
It is.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about plumbing in brief again, go over electrical. I wanted to remind myself, how much on electrical did we talk about last semester? Didn't we do connections to outlets to an EP electric panel? Or am I like, we did, Padilla? Does everyone remember that? Okay, well, I got good news for you. We're going to talk about that again today. So here's the goal. The whole point was to have you have your model in good enough place where you don't have to do like, hey, watch, I'm doing a fake meat space with 4 walls, that you can actually just literally do stuff in your model, right? That's my intention, to be able for you to link your Revit model and start doing some of these things we have to do. So what I wanted to do by virtue of that was take your Revit models that you have saved,
Yes.
be able to link them into a MEP Revit file and be able to do some plumbing work and do some brief electric work. But then I wanted to tease out this idea of structure. So a lot of our buildings, of course, are 3 stories. There's a few ways we can do structure, but starting to figure out a few of the basics. So I wanted to talk about sort of some high-level concepts again. So again, we have an office floor plate. We talked about if you have less than 49 people in a business use, you're actually able to get away with 1 set of stairs. But in most of our floor plates, I don't know why it went dark. Oh, because of the glare. You might want to, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. A little bit. I think you have to actually do those. Just because I'm like looking at where the hot spots are. Yeah, 1 more over. I'm not trying to haze you. I just genuinely, okay, that's better. Thank you.
All of them?
You can do all of them. That's fine.
Nice day of the year. You guys just want to be.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Today's like so nice outside.
Too bad you're in an applied software class. I don't know what to tell you. Next time, go to like beach volleyball class.
The rest of the week is nice too.
Whatever, guys. Are you done kvetching, as they say in Yiddish? Okay. So most office buildings have to have at least 2 stairs. Okay. So the other caveat to that is if I have 1 set of stairs that's like an open set of stairs, you can't necessarily count that as a full set of stairs because in the event of a fire, there's a risk that I might not be able to get out within a reasonable amount of time. So in our building, we do have 3 steps, but because it's open, the way the code is determined with the NFPA and the IBC, this ends up being what's called whatever we call it, a monumental stair. But the technical term is a communicating stair. Now this sounds really silly, but that's the technical term. Why? because a stair doesn't necessarily have to be monumental to be what we're effectively doing. What is the hallmark difference between a fire stair and a stair like this? Like, what's the one major thing when you look at them is the difference?
The shape.
Okay, the shape might be different.
The fire rating.
The fire rating.
The doors to the exterior maybe is one thing.
Okay. How it connects to the exterior.
Fire rating inside of it too.
Don't the fire stairs have, like, on those landings, they're supposed to be big enough for wheelchairs too?
Okay, so you have these ideas of what's called it's another important term, area of refuge. Okay.
Fire extinguishers.
The main thing, and I didn't think it was a trick question, was that it's open between two levels without having any barriers in between. So if I had a fire stair, the implication is that the landings that connect me to different levels have at least a fire barrier on the walls. So if I took a section cut, the idea is that this is kind of its own chamber. The problem with communicating stairs is that if I had a fire downstairs and it was blazing and this was just open, there's a risk that the fire will just immediately spread, or smoke at the very least. That's an important thing I don't want to skip over. Everyone likes to think that fire is really just about the fire. It's actually mostly also about smoke. And smoke could be just as deadly as the fire can be. Okay? I don't know if anyone's been to a barbecue. You know, I have had my share of asados in my time. And if you're downwind of the barbecuer, the asador, like, the next day you feel it in your lungs. And like, that's when you're outside, you have other air mixing. You can imagine if I was just exposed to like a few heavy whiffs of nothing but heavy black smoke, how harmful that would be to my lungs. So the bottom line here is that the communicating stair is not just able to be this gigantic hole in the floor. So how do you think we solve this problem? Anyone have a theory? I mean, how do we everyone's been to like lobbies and stuff where you see these, beautiful, sweeping, I'm winging it here, mezzanines, and you have like, big open, stairs that just sweeping gigantic spaces. Let's just apply this for a second and ask yourselves, how do you think they get away with it?
Fire curtain,
What's a fire curtain?
something that sits, I guess the best way I could describe it is like when you're on the boardwalk and businesses put down like gates in front of the businesses like that,
Yeah.
but it basically hides under a bulkhead and kind of operates like a rolling door almost.
So maybe I can hide it in a bulkhead that follows this mezzanine, and in the event of a fire, right? The whole thing kind of gets enclosed. Is that what you're kind of saying? And then maybe here there's a slow descent and it cuts off that stair. Carlos, am I boring you?
No.
I don't think I've ever had someone so loungy, like with their eyes closed, in the last 3 years.
I have a question.
What other ways?
This setup that you're doing, you typically want to be on the side of the stairs, or do you typically want to be on the side of those doors?
Well, it wouldn't matter. I mean, basically, the idea based on what I said is that you couldn't count this as a means of egress, and you'd have to have another way out anyway. So even if that thing shuts, you're supposed to have one or another way out. And that's actually why that's the case. Because if you did something like a fire curtain, right? I don't think it's really called a fire curtain per se. I think there's a specific word for that. But that's a good way of framing it, that it's like those things on malls or the boardwalk where you shut down your thing, but they're fire tight. They're not just open. Another way you could do it is with advanced smoke evacuation technology. Smoke evac is when you have HVAC that is designed to have a heavy suction that's connected to your fire alarm. Another way you can handle this is by creating situations inside the section plane that create doors that can be shut in the event of a fire. This happens most of the time in office buildings. Next time you go to an office building and you see one of these types of stairs, or a hotel or a school, one of the things you might see is if I have a plan on my second level, right, and I have my open set of stairs, they come out and it's all monumental looking, that immediately in the periphery, I might have doors that are like on hold opens. These are like walls. And so when the doors are open, it just feels like a more open space. But in the event of a fire, those are on fire alarms and they'll close. That way, people could still exit because they could push through the door and go to the stair, but the smoke isn't just billowing throughout the entire room. Anyone have any clue what we use here in this building? Hey, everyone get up. The D is in for a real treat. Come on, seriously, get up.
Come on, ball the nuts.
I'm in for a real treat.
Yes.
Let's go. Come on, let's get to it.
Part of learning is getting out of your chair now and again.
I need this.
That is a real treat.
I support it. Okay, so one of the things you can do, like in gym class, now that we're up, is okay. Put your hands out here and you get one. Get that blood circulating,
you, sir.
You're most welcome. So for those of you who missed it at home, this is what happened. I went out to the communicating stair and I blew their minds. 2 different styles, from the ceiling, from the wall. And I showed them mag hope opens on double doors, which are very common in K through 12 applications. That way you'll remember when you watch this video later. Any questions from anyone about that little code debrief?
Oh, nice, incredible. Nice little field trip.
It's cool to see stuff that you've been walking for.
Yeah, I never would have ever seen it that open up.
Yeah.
Well, every little bit of education you can get makes you better when you're in your job in the field. Because then you're just like, what does this thing mean? Well, now you know, because you got to see some of it.
They had the fire curtain down a couple weeks back.
Why? What did you
Yeah,
do?
I did see that.
They had those stairs completely closed off.
I thought it was the security.
You never think about it. You never
Yeah,
think
I
about
was like, first of all, where the hell did this wall come from?
Oh, now you know.
When is our when is final exam week?
I believe it's the 15th.
May, right?
That's the
Like
13th?
the week of May 13th.
13th. It would be 13th. Get ready for a pen and paper exam in this class.
Ooh. Actually?
I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, based on everyone's work ethic, whether I should do it. We'll see. Stay tuned.
So would working harder or softer give us a written exam?
What do you think?
Softer.
No. Not at all.
So if you work
If I told you I was going to give you a pen and paper exam, how would you even know how to study for that?
I actually had no, that was like a trauma response when you said that. I had a class that was a BIM class that did that.
At Penn State, all the BIM classes have written exams.
Makes me feel like I should do
It was
that.
terrible. No, it was
Yeah.
awful.
Maybe.
Well,
I just
they
didn't
kind
do it.
of split that class
How would
up.
the question?
No, seriously, I actually like made a stink of it to the architecture department when that happened.
You making a stink of it? I can't imagine.
Oh, come on.
Well, I mean, it made sense at Penn State because only one out of we had class 3 times a week, only one class was actually written, and the other 2 were like, we're gonna learn about construction.
Yeah. No, like part of the class was like, what's the shortcut for this? It's like, dude, like, I could do it. I could just build you the thing.
You had to do it from memory?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Well, that sounds really silly.
For an AutoCAD class, like you're quizzing me about the capabilities of.
Yeah, I don't vibe with that. No, that's
That's a bit ridiculous. No, AutoCAD was fun.
That's why I was saying
you had a trauma response. I understand.
I don't think it's there. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with AutoCAD.
Okay, go to. Let's try this together. Go to your new browse systems default.
Huh?
Go to new browse systems default.
Regular default,
Systems default.
system default, right. Why is it that ours are all in different orders? It's not.
Hopefully that works. You find it or no?
Yeah, I found it, but like mine is all at the bottom, yours is all at the top. I'm pretty sure I have mine.
Well,
I
mine.
don't know
It's
why.
just I don't know why mine is not in alphabetical order.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you find it, everybody? Open. You didn't? Did you go to browse? Okay, for those who got there, First thing you want to do is go to Insert. We want to link our Revit.
And you're saying select our file that we've been working on, correct?
Yeah, the one that's 3 weeks of unadulterated, polished perfection. Something that really shows hours and hours,
Oh, okay.
dozens of hours of effort. So you have the length, you're
I
polished.
got it linked.
Okay.
Link Revit, right?
Yeah.
Whoa, bro.
Sid, you're quiet. You good?
Yeah, that is one.
Okay. So you'll see, just to do a quick tour,
Do I have to close my old one?
they might make you do that. They might make you do that, yeah.
I was like, do I have to do all close it?
So if you go to your project browser, you'll see that it has lighting, mechanical, and plumbing all in one, like, file. You will see that you are limited to the first 2 floors. So just like before, if I need to like view another floor, I have to add the level that's commensurate to that floor.
Yes.
So you know how to do that by now. If I went to floor plan and you'll see it doesn't show any floor plans, it's because I need to make the level and the elevation to correspond to such a floor. But right now, let's just focus on the immediate, which is like, let's just go to level 1. So we have level 1 lighting, level 1 ceiling plan, level 1 power. On HVAC, we have 1 through 2, and then we have plumbing 1 and 2. So, depending on what view we're in, so for example, in plumbing, if I click plumbing, you'll see that plumbing 1 has my fixtures there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that a doozy?
I linked all my toilets and urinals and stuff.
So, one of the things that's interesting about that is that every sort of system also has its 3D view. So you'll see here in my 3D view, I have sink kind of floating in space.
Oh, that's actually really, really nice.
I'm glad you're liking the class today.
No, it's just like a couple seconds ago, you saw me like I was asleep and doing what we did right now, kind of got me up.
Yeah, that Starbucks wasn't doing the trick.
I don't drink Starbucks. I know I work there.
You don't push your own product.
Yeah.
You don't sample your own product.
I don't like it. Have you drank any of the coffee that I gave you?
I drank all of it.
You want another bag? I don't like your coffee. It's too.
We don't.
You trying to get some better grades, man?
Yeah.
Doing coffee?
No,
I don't do quid pro quo, but I do like coffee.
I have a large supply.
I have a large supply.
I don't.
I'm getting it from Colombia. Colombia is where the coffee beans usually come from.
It's too bold.
I like bold coffee.
You like
Is that a bold guy?
You're saying all the right things right now.
he gets everything.
Okay, so
Yeah, you like
guys, we are recorded, so please don't admit to any illegal activity.
On Minecraft. I sell coffee beans on Minecraft.
I don't even know. I am so old. I don't even know what that means.
You
Okay.
know what Minecraft is?
No, I don't know what it means to sell coffee beans on Minecraft. So you'll see something interesting.
Yes.
If I try to take my pipes, right,
Correct.
it won't actually feel like there's anything to connect to. Now, just because it's bold and it shows up, doesn't mean that it's actually in the model. So what's interesting about this is that when you're an architect and you make a plan and you hire consultants from outside to work on the plan, they're still in charge of like making sure that whatever they're putting into the project that's in their scope, be it duct work, water heaters, piping, fixtures, all that really still is their responsibility as the consultant. So you might show a toilet that's a specific style of toilet, but ultimately they might dictate, well, maybe it should be this type of toilet. So it's this weird thing where this is the opportunity for you as an engineer to be like, hey, I saw that you specified a a floor-mounted flush tank toilet. I think we want to do a wall-mounted toilet, or this is the laboratory you're gonna do. So the bottom line is, you still, even though you designed this already, you put a toilet in its place. In this model, in the systems model, you're expecting to put the fixture back in place. So you have to actually overlap it and put another type of that in its place. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to link to it in the systems. Carlos, I just got done explaining why. So don't make that face. We can talk about it again.
No, because I was just thinking about it. I'm like, dude, I pulled so many Revit families from online that like to find that specific exact toilet.
Yeah, and you can still put it in. But now you have to put it in on this mode. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to reinvent it. I'm saying why you do it this way. Does that make sense?
I was just saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find that exact same model. Cause
Well, you should save it to your computer.
No, I mean, like, I have like 30 different toilets, and I like pick whichever one I found.
Well, I hope you have.
Nice.
I hope you have some time. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this puppy in place. And you'll see it doesn't even look the same. So what I would do with my architect would be I'd coordinate this with them, saying, hey, this is the model. They'd probably end up removing the one that they did, and they'd match yours as an engineer. But the point is, now that I have a fixture on the screen that has an in for cold water and an out for sanitary, I'm able to make those connections we were talking about the other day. So in my model, I should be able to take the pipe now and run a pipe. And of course, as we talked about at the top of class, blue will be the water line. Typically, water lines will be run in the floor above, getting you to wherever it needs to go below. Sanitary, of course, would be different. It will come from below. You gotta make sure you're actually connecting. So we talked about this the other day. It should be an X, right? So again, you're gonna have to have different views open to be able to do this without losing your mind. But usually the sanitary connection point will be the junction of your fixture and the floor. So in this instance, again, we don't want to add a vertical. We'd like it to have a slope down and to change the slope and to pick a slope of some kind. So I'll do 1.5 inches or 1/2 inch rather.
So you change slope and then select the slope down,
Yeah.
and then you select the value.
Yeah.
And you remove automatically connect, right?
Yeah. After you have the stub out.
Are you basing all of this on floor plan number 1 coming?
Yes, because I'm on the first floor here. I am noticing something interesting. My sanitary line is not green. It appears to be blue.
Is it because you have it on 10 maybe?
So because I'm in control of my plumbing model a little bit more acutely, you'll see on properties, it actually has a lot more information. It says system type, and you can actually specify what it is. So in this instance, I have to hit sanitary, and now it will turn green.
Let's say I didn't put it right on the wall. I wouldn't be able to move the original model from this view, correct? I'd have to open up.
Yeah. Now you can, of course, place the toilet in a slightly different location and go back and fix it in your other model. There's no crime against that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know why I left like a smooth half-inch between the wall and the toilet on every single toilet.
Sometimes it doesn't look right if you put it like.
I have a question.
For me?
Yep.
Oh. Yeah.
What do we do if we cannot see the nines under plumbing? If we're just placing the nines and we don't see any of it.
Have you looked at different views to see if it's still not showing up?
Yep, on 3D views, it's not showing 3D.
Are you sure you're clicking the right 3D view? You have to be in plumbing.
3D plumbing, that's what I meant.
And you added the pipes.
I added a pipe here.
So did you maybe it just didn't draw? You don't see them anywhere?
I don't see no information in there. Plumbing, right?
Okay, then you add the toilet. I told you to add a toilet. Remember?
This is not added here?
No, I told you this already. I said you have to reconnect a family, a plumbing family.
Reconnect the plumbing family.
So you have to go to your families. Under systems, you go to fixture, plumbing fixture.
Plumbing fixture.
Yeah. And you have to add a toilet in that place.
The exact same place that.
Yes, exactly. Where were you? I had a whole conversation about that. As silly as that sounds, you have to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to have something to connect to. Because it doesn't read your baseline model as having a plumbing connection. So one of the things you're going to have to do for your model, whether it's on your first floor, second floor, wherever, is you have to understand where your water heaters are going to be. So in a commercial office, it's not uncommon for every floor to have its own water heater. If you don't have a heavy use of water, like a kitchen, like when I say kitchen, I mean like a commercial kitchen. But if you have like a few hand sinks, whether it be a kitchen sink or not, and a few toilets, typically you could do the work of what's called a low boy water heater. I actually noticed one today in my office. I should have taken a photo. But a low boy water heater is actually pretty cool. Basically, if I am looking at, a situation where I have a door on the wall, and beneath the door, if I walk in, now I'm inside the bathroom, I'll have my ceiling plane, and then there'll be structural deck above. This is where all the duct work is going for the venting and sprinkler lines. And typically you'll have what's called a unistrut system that creates a box, and then a little cylinder is on top of that unistrut, and that connects in the wall to supply hot water for that sink. Why? Because how often am I washing my hands in an office? It's a few people now and again. I don't need a gigantic water heater for that, right? So what ends up happening is these low boy guys will suffice. But for the sake of argument, let's say every floor had to have a water heater. Well, now you're experiencing your first architect headache number one. I didn't give you space for that. In your floor plans, I never told you you had to have room for a water heater. Guess what? Now I'm telling you. Boom, a water heater in there.
Boom, baby.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, and while you're at it, maybe you should have room for electrical panel or two.
Can I put it in the same closet?
But what about a furnace? What about an air handling unit? Just triple the square footage of the building.
We just like add a random.
That'll fix it.
And while you're at it, no, just kidding. That's it.
Question, I'm pretty like, it doesn't really have to do with this. Instead of those water David Bobs, so like, you like press it down and it gives you water, not a water fountain.
Yeah, InstaHot.
It's called Insta what?
Are you talking about for hot water?
Okay, so like, you know, like you go to an office, like in the rooms, they got fancy little water thing, you put the plastic gallon of water
A
cooler.
bubbler.
No, you're talking about water cooler.
Oh, it's water cooler?
Yeah, have you ever heard of like water cooler talk? Like when people like hang out at the water cooler in the lunchroom. That's like a 5-gallon Deer Park water bottle. It goes bloop 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 bloop.
Yeah,
bloop.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's called a
yeah,
water.
I called it that.
The old house that was rented with water. You could have it, like, it was highly recommended. Yeah, so we had to buy a cooler like every couple of weeks.
I could not find any families with one of those.
So if I go to systems and I go to plumbing fixture, I go to load family. Let's see if this works because we had problems with this on the architectural model. Remember how plumbing has both equipment and fixtures? Equipment is where water heaters would live. And it doesn't identify it as being a plumbing fixture. So if I use a piece of plumbing equipment, let's see if this works. Nope, it won't let me. So I'm going to go to component, load, water heater, and now it works.
And I put in bidets instead of
If you want to put a bidet in, that's up to you.
back in the day.
Nothing says I'm comfortable with my colleagues as sharing a bidet.
Probably culture.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about it. What you do in your building is up to you. So go ahead and play with that for another few minutes, and then we're going to talk quickly about electrical, these baseline electrical.
How big is a water heater for typically?
If it's just dedicated for that one purpose, I'd say 3 feet by 3 feet. Because that's pretty much the size of the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like what about rooms for like the furnaces and the electrical panel? Are those similar size?
3 feet by 5 feet for a furnace, an electrical room 3 feet by 5 feet. Great questions.
Do you want us to make the electrical panel, the handling unit, air handling unit, and the water heater right now?
No, I'll get to that. It's cool to start to see your building connect between floors. So in my house, I have a water heater in the basement, which is why it takes forever for my daughter to get hot water to wash her face. But that's another story.
I have another question.
Yeah, what's up?
You might have mentioned it, but I don't know, I think I might have heard you when you were talking about this. We also need to leave the previous water faucets and all the stuff from the bathrooms that we did.
No.
Okay. When you reinstall the system, is it supposed to replace it automatically?
No.
So what happens?
Well, the problem is if you delete it, then it's not going to show up on your other model, right?
Okay, because right now I have two of them showing.
Yes, and until we reload the MEP model, I don't want you to do that because then your toilets will disappear. So for now, endure the awkwardness of having two toilets, two sinks. But once you get all this stuff put in, you can relink your MEP model to your architectural model, and then all that stuff will show up.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So one of the other things you're going to notice, you're going to ask yourself the following question: how does water come into my office building? Typically, you'll have a water room. And that's also near where your sprinkler room will be. Uh-oh, I also didn't mention those. Now, the good news is you have warehouse space. Easily notch out a little piece of those guys. But typically, you want all your water in your building to originate in one single source. Right? Because you need your cold water to originate somewhere. It's just another thing to think about.
Hey, Professor.
Yeah.
I'm kind of struggling how to get more levels.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I see it now.
Hold on, while you're on that topic, because I did it while you're all were distracted. So let's just look at this together. So again, in my MEP reference model, it's a little different than my architectural model. So you'll see, for example, let's just go to electrical plans. So in my electrical plans, I don't have like a roofing plan. Right? Let's say I want to go to the roof level. Can I have everyone's attention for a second? So in order to do that, if I went to like my elevations, you'll see that I have a roof level in my original plan, but I don't have a roof level in my MEP model. And the reason why I know that is because this guy is all like linked to a family, and this one's on its own. So basically, like anything else, I'll just go ahead and make a copy, and then I'll just bring it up a level, and now I can make a new level. Now you'll see it defaults to mechanical level 4. So I'm just going to call it roof. Now you'll notice it defaulted to mechanical level 4. Don't forget what it defaulted to, because basically if I go to the classic now, I go to view plan, floor plan, it will now say roof. Okay, cool. I want to make a new plan for my lights. Wait a minute. It didn't add the plan to my lights. It added it to the roof plan here. That's not what I wanted. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I could use a mechanical floor on my roof, but I still want to make an electrical one. So how do I do that? It's very, very unintuitive, so everyone needs to pay attention. I basically would make a plan duplicate by duplicating with detailing. When I click on this plan, if I go to properties, you'll see graphics, underlay, extents. There's something called identity data. The identity data is still calling this a view template for a mechanical plan. So I have to click that, and then I have to pick if it's an electrical plan, a mechanical plan, or a plumbing plan. So I want it to be an electric plan. So I go back to my browser. Now it moved up, and now it's in the electrical plan.
Why do they do that?
Why?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Well, I don't know. I wanted to work for Autodesk once upon a time. Maybe I could have answered you then.
How'd that go?
I was unemployed and desperate, and I applied to everything, and it didn't go well. Actually, that's not true. This was in my let me move to Japan phase. This was 5 years ago, and I was applying for a job in Tokyo. That still didn't go well.
Did you already learn Japanese?
I know a little Japanese. Konnichiwa. So the idea is that we should feel comfortable with plumbing. So
Sorry, throw it in my mouth.
gross.
Bad move the lungs.
Thank you for doing it in your mouth. Sounds like you're having a rough day over there, Carlos.
It might be.
So electrically, just to recap what we had talked about briefly last year, there's two different types of electrical plans. There's the electrical plans that are showing lights, and then there's the electrical plans that are showing pretty much outlets and things like that. And in any given plan, you're going to have to show outlets. So just to recap how we would do that, first of all, make sure I'm on the right plan. This is default troubleshooting number one. Am I on the right plan? Because there's so many plans, right? So you gotta make sure you're on the right one. I'm on whatever level I want to be. Then I go to electrical equipment, electrical device, or lighting fixture. So electrical equipment is going to be things like panel board, transformers, Ethernet switch. That's pretty much not what you want. You're going to want mostly devices. If you recall, the device scroll down includes electrical fixtures, which would mean like an outlet, communication devices like data jacks, or call buttons rather, and then data would be the data jack, fire alarms, lighting toggles, nurse call buttons, telephone, etc. So if I go to electrical fixture, the default will be a standard duplex receptacle. If I went to load family, I go backwards, go to electrical, MEP, electrical power, and it says these options: appliances, distribution, generation, or terminal. So a terminal is where it ends. That's the devices. So you have receptacles that go on countertops, you have receptacles that are switches, you have receptacles, then you have duplexes versus quadplexes. Everyone know what a quadruplex is? You have 4 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a GFI quadruplex because I'm a baller. And I'm going to put this in my kitchen. And voila, just lets me dump it there. So basically I could just with ease pick my different devices and spread them around my kitchen or my house. Generally in a house, which you're not doing, the rule would be if it's near water or if it's like in a garage or it's somewhere that could get wet, you would want it to be a ground fault interrupting outlet. So bathrooms, so on. In commercial settings, it's similar codes. So in your kitchenette, in your bathrooms, that's where you're going to have the GFI outlet. But the expectation is that you would know at least how to use this tool to drop outlets. If I'm in an office, the expectation is I might need Ethernet cables. So typically, data cables are just shown as a triangle. I am curious, just for the sake of looking, what types of equipment they have for data devices. If I go to load model, communication. So you see they get pretty complicated in the MEP modes. You get ceiling daylight sensors, photocells, thermostats, wall occupancy sensors, communication, you get intercom switches, clocks, buzzers, security systems. So you can get pretty creative. For some reason, they don't have any data in the data one. So go to architecture. The only extra outlet you could add is like a TV outlet. So the expectation would be for homework that you're starting to power and connect to the Ethernet every office. And you put that outlet on the desk side because that's where your laptop or desktop is, like behind the desk. It depends on how your desk is laid out. Right? Sometimes it makes sense to be on the side of your desk. Take it from me. My office, my boss was like, oh, the cables are everywhere. I'm like, oh, how would tell you it's for the outlet? I'm not on the phone. You told him? Of course I did. And Mike dropped. I punched him in the face. Yeah. We kept it on. For a minute. Yeah, that was a little crazy. Just kidding. This is all just a fantasy.
Clearly.
Of course I'm on.
Punching your boss in the face.
Well, I am being recorded, so of course it's just a joke.
In Minecraft, you want to put your boss in his face.
Yes, in Minecraft. So any questions about the data outlets? Everyone figure out where to get those?
Data outlets. I have 2 questions.
Preferably one at a time.
The first one is going to be, you mentioned that we're doing sure that we are all the same on the right, especially the right. So to require. So my question is going to be, I want to have the right question. I'm on 90.
Yeah, you want to be on power.
No, I don't want to be.
You want to be on power.
90 is going to be.
Lighting's for lighting.
In this. Very nice.
So did we go back there?
Yes, sir.
Hairball.
Chicken nuggets.
Yo, where's Angel at, man?
Oh man, I miss him.
I do too. You had some good energy.
He got some good energy.
You did. He was
Yeah.
always in your smile.
He was the one who wanted my empanadas the most. I don't know. I haven't heard from him.
He was quiet, but he was a jokester.
I talked to him a little bit.
Oh yeah?
That's it. Pretty good. He's put the back first semester.
Nice.
Who is?
Angel.
Oh, he is coming back. I thought you were talking about someone else again.
Who do you think we're talking about?
Well, I might not be here next. I might not be here next month.
What do you
Oh, yeah?
Come on, what's going on? Why?
Congratulations.
Well,
I hope that's a good thing.
We'll see. Yes, I've been promoted to another adjunct position now. I'm just kidding.
You got promoted to customer.
He's getting promoted to student.
Well, my wife every semester wants me to stop teaching, so I'm gonna probably have some pressure on me. So we'll see. Ultimately, it's my call,
Yeah.
but pressure is pressure, as you probably know. Okay, what am I trying to find? I'm trying to find electrical MEP. Okay, call buttons, building controls, fire alarms.
Does it make sense when we're doing these, plumbing plans to start
Yeah.
with where the sanitary is leaving the building? Like, what do you recommend? Should we go top down or bottom up?
So you're kind of beating me to what I was going to wrap up with, which would be part of what I want you to figure out is at least how you're going to master plan how everything's going to come to a place. So in a sanitary situation, clearly you have to know where the sanitary is leaving the building, right? And then a fresh water situation, that might not be the same space, right? My sanitary space could be going one way and my fresh water could go another. But the answer would be you should at least know the general direction in which you want to put that stuff. It's quite a tall ask for me to ask you to completely plumb everything because that would take too long, I think. I think I have to be reasonable about what my expectations would be. But I guess to put it back on you, would you rather do all the plumbing for one floor? Try to figure, and if I were to charge you, like figure out where your stack wants to be for both your fresh water, your hot water, and your sanitary, we kind of leave it at that? Or would we rather make the homework assignment, find where your water's coming in and where your sewer's leaving, and then get everything figured out on your base model for your electrical room, your water room, stuff like that? I guess I could go one of two ways. I don't think I want to give you all of that because then I'm just gonna like be disappointed when I come in next week. It's just my honest answer. I mean, unless you think you could do all of that, you think if I asked you to put a water room, electrical room, and then had everything connect to both those rooms for both systems,
I don't think, plus we have that, I say, nah, I don't got it like that, chief.
I'm not gonna say anything, it's up to you.
no, thank you, Augustine. That's refreshing.
I'll
Said
say
you've been awfully
something,
quiet.
And it's not up to you. How about that?
I just accept the fact that I'll disappoint. And
That's the part that hurts the most, is you telling us you're not mad, you're just disappointed.
Well, I am because we're 3 weeks into this assignment and it took this long to get the building done.
It's a big building.
Yeah, but other students have done it in that timeline.
Hold on,
My second question was related to that actually, Professor.
It's related to what?
Typically, on a building just being professionally, how many architects typically work on the plans for it?
2.
2 architects?
Yeah, senior and a junior.
Is this typically, if you were to build this building, this is something that would take, I guess, months, right?
To build?
Or not to build,
To design?
to design,
Well, I designed it and getting done in 3 months.
3 months. Complete.
Yeah.
Complete.
It's not that big of a building. I mean, really, it's not. 18,000 square feet? Whatever.
I was just curious, it's not related to, I don't know, mistakeness or anything like that, but I was just curious, I was thinking.
I know, I get it. I'm curious. Okay, so how about we focus on the water, and you're gonna connect all your plumbing for just your water.
Okay.
So we're not gonna focus on electrical at all. Okay. So no lighting, no devices, get it plumbed. I think that's reasonable.
For the entire
For the entire building. There's only so many toilets and only so many sinks in your building, right? So let's talk about what that would look like on the ground level. How is this out of ink already? So if I have a floor plate, you know, some of the considerations we have to make is, again, on the ground level, I have to get enough fall where the sanitary line's going to come out and connect to some, you know, sewer line. But that is not necessarily where the water pressure or like the main for the water is going to be, which I can stub off of and come in on a different side, right? Now, I can't tell you where in your building makes sense for that to happen. So the reason why I was struggling with Chris's question was because I don't want to sit there and give you some arbitrary answer as to where the water has to start, because in your building it might make it harder, right? I kind of want to make the job easier for you. But you'll notice very quickly, and this is why I want you to do the exercise as a whole. It doesn't help to just look at one floor. Is that you really have to consider, how am I getting the crap, no pun intended, out of my building? And that's kind of one of the challenges that plumbing engineers have. Is that, you know, if I have a toilet over here and a toilet over here and a toilet over here, okay, so am I like unifying all of them, and then I have a stack that goes into the floor, like if I'm on the second floor, and then by the time I get to the first floor, like where's that stack? Is that on top of another toilet? And then I have to run my plumbing however many feet, and if I'm going at 1/2 of an inch per foot, how deep is that connection going to be, right? That's the stuff that a plumbing engineer has to figure out. And the more toilets you have downstairs, the harder it's going to be to get all the sanitary to make sense. So, you know, I'm not sitting here saying you have to become an engineer. I kind of want you to like trace where the sanitary lines are all going to go and find one place out of your building. And then we can kind of like look at what you have and we can talk about finessing it. I don't want it to be perfect, but I need you to at least have made the attempt to get everything plumbed. This comes back to, if I have sinks around the different parts of the floor, I had to figure out, okay, do I have a water closet over here water closet's a bad term. Do I have a closet for a water heater that is now have to connect all the hot water like that? And that's how we're going to do the hot water, right? Or does it make sense to have this be more centralized and stub up my hot water? The reality to that question is that depending on how you do that, it can actually create situations where people get less hot water than other people. So if I look at a riser, a plumbing riser, and I have my water heater here, and I'm connecting this way to my water, this guy gets screwed, because this guy's the last one on that water. And so if I'm sucking up all my water as I go, that's an issue, which is why certain plumbing designs will actually have what's called a recirculation pump, which actually creates like a loop. And that way, the last one is not the last one. It kind of creates a situation where the hot water is available on any given side. But again, I'm not asking you to be the experts at this. I'm asking you to start looking at the building that you designed one way. Now it's almost like you're the architect, you hand it off to an engineer. Now you got to put your engineer hat on. How are you going to plumb it? Does that make sense? We're not going to talk about HVAC in your building yet. That will come later. I'd rather you focus on plumbing. So your homework prompt will be, do the plumbing for this job. Yes.
Now, what elevation is typical for a sanitary main?
There's no one answer to that.
In projects that you've worked on, like what level has it been at? Like negative 10 feet? Below grade?
No, there's no one answer. I don't know. It depends on the building.
Can you give me like a couple different ones that you've experienced?
Why don't we make it super low so you don't have to worry about it? So I would just say it's negative 15.
That's cool. I was just kind of curious, like.
No, there's no one answer. That's part of the challenge. Like if I had a building that was designed, so this happens a lot of time with adaptive reuse. I have a building that's a warehouse building, has no toilets in it. Okay? Now all of a sudden I want to make it a restaurant. And the sanitary main is not at the right elevation for where I need to be, or it's on a hill. Like in Sykesville, Maryland, I have a job that didn't go anywhere, but But the challenge was the main versus where I was coming out of the building. So the engineers and I all decided that you were damned if you do, damned if you didn't. If I went too low, then okay, now I'm lower than the sanitary end of the street. If I went too high, then clearly the building wasn't going to get enough fall. So then it's like, you know, Goldilocks was somewhere in the middle. I had to figure out where I was going to land. But that's not necessarily an exception to the rule, but it's not guaranteed it's going to be easy either. So to answer your question, you don't have to worry about what height it's at.
Okay.
I'd rather you just figure out where you want to put it. But I would be remiss if you left this class thinking that it was always a cable. Is my point. Typically, if I have a lot of plumbing upstairs, it's not such a big deal. Because then I can figure out where I want to land my pipe, like inside the building, at the very end of the building, and then I'm like the highest point I can possibly be. The challenge is when I have stuff on grade. So you might ask yourself, if I did give you the challenge of you had a very bad sanitary height that you had to deal with for an invert, what would I do to rearrange my plumbing to make it more advantageous? And the answer would be get your stuff as close to the corner where you're coming out of the building as possible for those fixtures. That would be your solution.
Right.
That make sense?
Yeah.
I don't even want to start to talk about sprinklers. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Any questions? Let's solve problems this way. Are we having fun? It's been an informative class today. Okay, so the one other monkey wrench I'll throw at you is even though you're not going to, okay, I'm going to repeat this. Everyone listen. You're not going to do anything systems related other than water. However, I need you to add an electrical closet in the ground level for where your electrical is going to come into the building. I'm going to need you to add mechanical closets and electrical closets on every floor and a place to put your water heater on every floor.
How big is the sprinkler?
Oh, God. I ask that question at the beginning of every job, and every engineer goes, it's never big enough. And that's ridiculous.
So I guess the water room.
Such a freaking lie. Yes, the water room will have the sprinkler.
One at a time?
Because it's just like, of course they know how big it's going to be. The equipment has to be 5 by 5 usually for that. So I'd say 8 by 10 for a water room. It's the size of a small office, very small office. But you know, I always tell people, your building ain't going to work without water, electrical, and air. So you can't pretend like these things are negotiable. You got to put them in, whether you like to or not.
You think we can, give her down for it? You think we can ever get a water system tour with you?
Water system tour.
Water,
Like you want to go to like
the
Busch
water-
Gardens?
Especially not this building, I'm talking about the other one, the new one.
I don't know anything about that water system. So didn't you do a report on that building?
It's massive.
Don't you know that guy?
Which guy?
The guy who gave you interviewed a guy for class, remember?
It was a girl, it was the one who decided, who was the one who decided.
I thought you knew the facilities person.
He was not there.
I thought you said you talked to the facilities person.
He thought he was there. I don't remember, anyways,
Okay.
if you think it's possible, I would love to.
What I'm trying to get at is you would be the one to know how to get access more than me.
Bruh.
Bruh.
Bruh. Wait, what? You're the guy. Not the guy. No, not the guy. He's the guy.
Alright, Professor,
Yeah, what up?
what are some movies
Pulp Fiction.
your kids are definitely gonna have to watch that like impacted your childhood?
My Neighbor Totoro. Because it's a Japanese person.
That's a very interesting question.
That was just, you said he's the guy, and then I was thinking about Spy Kids.
I haven't seen that movie.
Like, my kids will definitely watch Spy Kids. It's terrible CGI, they're gonna hate it, but I'm gonna love it.
That's good. That's a good attitude. I think the Muppet movie would be good. I like that movie. I don't know. That's an interesting question because my mom raised me to watch some inappropriate movies at a very young age.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I watched all sorts of like horror movies way too young.
Oh, hell yeah. Bill's character.
Yeah, I think it explains why I became the man I am today. And
You,
I like to subject you to a lot of horror in your homework assignments.
You got
Do you go to Studio Ghibli Fest?
It's Ghibli. It's
Ghibli?
not to be that guy, but it's Ghibli.
Oh,
It's fun.
do you go see Ghibli?
gatekeeping right now.
No, I think it's important that he knows until because I'm a nice person and I'll say it nicely. Then there'll be some jerk out there that's gonna say like, "Excuse me, it's Ghibli." Anyway, sorry, you're asking if I've been to a film festival with Ghibli?
Do you go?
Actually, AFI had a thing in Silver Spring a while ago. It had to have been before I was dating my now wife, because I went with another girl. So, yeah, they had a thing where they had like a film festival. And they showed all the Ghibli movies. I haven't been to an anime conference in a very long time, and that was never really that wasn't really my speed. I was more like a culturally Japan interested more than anime freak kind of person. I mean, freak with like a loving.
No, but regardless, they still just like once a month they play one of like because they have a limited amount of films. They have like what 16.
Yeah, it's not too many, but it's some more than nothing.
They have a good amount of films, but each month on a specific date they air one of their movies. So like if you want to see it in theaters, you have to wait until the next year if you do get to see it that year. you change the size of the runs, it changes the size itself. So you see the height right there, the run height. So I could change the height automatically.
Can I show you something that might help you?
Yeah.
Go back to that first floor plan. And just start as you stare, just like, so you don't mess up your drawing. And then set it on like the right floors. So L1 to L2, okay? And basically trace the same shape, but don't be scared to overlap on itself. So how many stretches do you want? 6? Okay, so
Oh,
let's
so
say
the first one.
31 for the first one. Okay, so let's make. I wouldn't put it in there, but what I'm saying is put 10 this way, then 10 this way, and then another 10 this way, and overlap it. It'll look like normal. And it'll be this little. I'll show you.
Yeah, homework has been posted. Can't believe it's March. Augustine. Who's got the most complicated footprint for the design? Everyone, I think it might be.
I don't think I do. I'm just
All the way up here is where it meets.
So you'll get to I think we get actually don't have to be.
Can we focus on the homework assignment before you worry about that stuff? I mean, you're a very driven young man, but it's like you gotta stay on task.
Behind it.
You don't know if you're what you have or you know what it is?
Yes, of course I will. That's why I'm just asking.
More connection to people.
I probably could have done what you did there.
There's reminds me of like the bars in DuPont. Like, you ever been to that? Which one? DuPont Circle. Like literally any of them. You just go in and it's just it's like a staircase, and you have to like.
Yeah. Dude, forget this bars, dude. The escalator at the DuPont Metro was crazy.
Oh, that is crazy. You're right.
Dude, that was
That's correct.
That's not it. It's a circle with the next layer.
That is not the metro stop I would want to be at.
like, dude, that was just a sitting for like 3 hours.
Probably were.
It was insane.
Oh, well.
That is insane.
Yeah, that first floor does look.
Honestly,
back
the
to 3D.
Metro in general is like nothing.
I think I could have told you that without having to experience it.
Yeah,
It said like.
yeah, but like at this point, I'm a season editor, so it's like.
So it's really
The more I look at it, the more
I
I
feel about it now.
I don't think it's weird.
So
I'm thinking it's steep.
This one does
now
look.
pull it back. You can always change the length later. So just pull it back and go straight. Yeah. Okay. So now you got it to connect. Right. Okay. Any other questions? I need to finish this thought.
So I sent it to you.
Can you both show me your floor plates? Show me your floor plan on the third floor.
Jesus Christ. Second floor.
To leave that.
Look at that. You both have like zigzag and stuff.
Those are the three names like that.
It's not technical term. Okay.
Dude, look at it. I know.
I looked at yours. I can look over your shoulder. I have skills.
Barely had it up for 2 seconds.
I don't need. I do this for a living. I look at floor plans all the time. So like yours does this, has an exterior stair over here, a long stair over here, and it's a bulk of a main thing. You have like something over here.
Damn.
Sort of. I mean that's all I need to see. And yours has like a little courtyard thingy. Has a pooch out here. I think there's like a little cavity here.
How dare you call it a pooch?
Anyway, my daughter really impressed me. She has this magnetic drawing thing. It's not an Etch-a-Sketch, but it's got like a pencil, and she draws this. She draws like a table with some chairs, a bed, and like she draws this thing that looks like two. She says that's like a door with two knobs. And I said, "What is that?" And she goes, "Oh, remember when we went to Boston and we were in a hotel?" I said, "Yeah, back in May of 2023." She drew the room, which had this layout, from memory from May of last year. And I was like, she's going to be an architect, is what I think is going to happen. But anyway, I couldn't get over that.
Poor kid.
She's not even 4 right now. She doesn't know. She has no idea. So if I have a building that's really basic B, as they'd say, and it's like a floor plate of 100 feet by 150, I think everyone can kind of understand. It's like, look, if I'm going to have columns in my building, there's probably some metric of how frequent I'd have columns, right? The question is like, how frequent would they be? Like, blah blah blah. So just so you know, generally in like a steel building, 25 feet isn't an unreasonable gap if you can design it that way. But the reality here is that while we're doing all this stuff about, oh, I got to add an electrical room, I got to add a water room, one of the things you have to be considering is that these buildings have to be held up and they have to have columns in them. So I want you, while you're looking at your building with these mechanical rooms, electrical rooms, whatever, is start to understand loosely where you think the column grid might go. Now, can it be a column grid of 20 feet? Of course. Can it be a column grid of 35 to 40 feet? Sure. I mean, you could get away with that, which is not, it's a little bit harder to do. But my point being is that everyone's building has to have columns. This is the way it's going to be. So I'm not telling you how big they have to be right now. I just want you to understand where you think these columns would lay out. Okay? That's one of the charges for your homework. Charge 1. First floor and second floor. Add electrical room, sprinkler room, ID where the sanitary will leave. Third and second floors will have electrical rooms, HVAC rooms, and water heater rooms. Goal 2. The main goal is to provide systems connections for all water equipment and fixtures. All showers, toilets, and sinks should be hooked up to water heaters for their respective floors as needed. Be connected to water lines and where the water originates in the building or water room. The sanitary shall exit in the same location. Now, that's not to say the same location is where the water originates. That's to say that all the sanitary lines are going out of one area of the building. So 2 separate thoughts. You do not need to size the plumbing precisely, but know that the lower the sanitary pipe, the larger it is to support outflow, right? So I'm not going to have a 6-inch sanitary line upstairs and have a 2-inch sanitary line downstairs. That would be wrong, right? You all know what's going to happen if that happens. Also, water lines are usually larger when they come into the building, and then they gradually branch out. Now, again, I'm not sitting here looking at some chart telling you exactly what you need to do. We can always revise those. That's the beauty of Revit. You can always go back, toggle them, and do whatever you got to do. Bish?
Yep. Yes, sir.
No sprinkler design is needed. Not to say we don't have a sprinkler. I'm just saying for this assignment we don't have a sprinkler design. Goal 3, consider the structure of your building. Begin to apply a column grid to the structure to ensure it will work when you begin to analyze the structure. I don't want you to be caught off guard that your building wasn't working, or oh my God, I have all these offices that have columns going through them. This is the joy of my job. To have a beautiful idea and then to ruin it.
I have structural glass.
You have structural glass. People should run into them. It doesn't change the problem. We still have to have the problem. You know what I'm saying? It's like saying, don't worry, I'm going to clad my columns in mirrors. That's all I'm doing. People just run into them.
instead of steel, I just use glass.
Any questions about that?
Yes, sir.
I have a question about something
Two
else.
no sirs. Yes, sir. 100 points for your homework.
The no auto route solution was found.
Yes.
I have it with no automatic. Even if I have it with no automatic,
Because usually that means that it's too tight to make the rounded area.
I need to figure something out. I just need to do it another way.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it a bunch of different ways to see. It's probably just too tight.
Too tight.
Yeah, see, right now it doesn't have enough elbow room.
So here, I need to make it.
You gotta move it over before you connect it. It's usually helpful to originate from the fixture
From the picture.
and then connect afterwards.
Okay. From here.
I think that's all I got, folks. I mean, my dinner date canceled on me, so I don't want to go. But it's not your problem.
I mean, like, go to.
I mean, I'm not gonna eat sushi. That's that was a mistake for my wallet.
Do we have syllabus for this class?
10 will do.
Is it on?
It's on Blackboard.
I couldn't find it.
Should be.
I found the other one, but not the 3.8.
Could have sworn I uploaded it.
Did you hear anything about it?
Yeah, I got one back.
Hey,
Look at that. I'll go ahead and upload it. Okay. We'll go stand.